Here we are, May 29th program. Thank you everybody for joining us here tonight. We had some technical difficulties. Was it last week too? No, I don't remember. Or was it? My schedule's off a little bit, but other than that, here we are. Welcome everybody tonight. I want to thank you all again for joining us here on the Sedona Connection program, the May 29th program. Okay, and thank you for the comments that you already got that's coming in that tells me everything is good and going here on Facebook. So, well, with that, folks, I want to thank, as I said, thank everybody. And now, what I want to do, just give a really brief update of what's happening on the currency exchange, because that's the main reason why most of you are here. So, there is nothing new to report. We are still waiting. We're waiting for the release of the funds. And folks, please remember, because some of you are still emailing this, do I have any idea? No, I do not. The funders will never, never, never pre-announce the release of the funds for security reasons, because there's strong opposition to what we're doing, and there's some very powerful organizations out there that would like to shut us down. Now, everything I have been told is they know they can't stop it, but yet they will try to create some disruption and create havoc and chaos around the process. Now, when I say that they never release the funds, for me specifically, they would never, I would be the last person that they would tell, because I could accidentally say something on the air and that could get us all screwed up. Because for the funds to be released and for it to move in a smooth operation, we need to do that without disruption and conflict from the opposition. So that's basically, what we're waiting for. Now, why is it not happening? Again, this is a release of amount of funds that has a complete shift and change in the power structure of the global economy. You've heard me say on many programs, and many others talk about this. The world economic scenario is basically controlled by the Federal Reserve here in the United States. Now, even though they have the direct control over the United States currency and economy, it impacts the rest of the world as well. And it's important to remember the Federal Reserve is not a government agency. It's a private company, but yet they have the ability to have, not a slave, you got this nice job. Your job is a slave to the powerful controllers, because you wouldn't be able to exist. I don't want to say exist. You wouldn't function very well if you didn't have the job that they provide for you, but they provide it to keep you in a lower financial stratus. That's basically the situation. Now, one of the things that we're waiting for is this shift and change of the power structure. One of the best sources that talks about that is Ben Fulford in his weekly newsletters. He calls them what is called the Khazarian Mafia, and they are the ones that run and control, basically, what we call the black hats of this world that we live in. And they are the ones that have been controlling us, but they are losing their power and their control. Because you see, the cabal's greatest fear has always been humanity waking up to the truth. And that's what we're doing. We're waking up. Other programs, people like me here sharing and talking about this, we're waking up to the truth of who is really under power and control. And when you've listened to the programs I've shared recently about the power of perception, the power of human thought, we are the ones that collectively can put the energy in motion to create the change that we want to come our way. It's important that we keep ourselves positive. It's important that we keep ourselves in a very high vibrational energy state in our thoughts. High vibration, powerful, strong, high vibration thoughts will always overcome dark hat, cabal-based, low vibration energy if we put it into motion. But we have a tendency to just sit back and just let it be and let them do whatever they're going to do. Our job is to rise above in our thought process whatever it is that they throw at us. So What we're waiting for, though, is again this collapse, if that's the appropriate term, of the cabal-based system. And Ben Fulford and others are saying that we're getting very, very close. There is progress that is being made, and we're getting very close. None of us have an exact date. We don't know. But all I know is that when it does happen, it's going to be a wonderful day for all of us. Okay? So, what I want to do tonight, I'm going to share a series of some videos. And a couple of them are, just have some fun with. But here's a little one. If you're about my age, when you were a young kid, you remember this show called The Three Stooges, and how funny they were. Let's watch their interpretation of the banking system.
Speaking of money, how about the $20 you owe me?
Oh, yeah? Well, I only got 10, so here's 10, I owe you 10.
Thanks.
Hey, Mo, you owe me 20.
Well, here's 10, I'll owe you 10.
You owe me 20. Here's 10, I owe you 10. Here's the 10 I owe you.
Here's the 10 I owe you.
Here's the 10 I owe you. Good, now we're all even.
Now we're all even after everybody passed their $10 around to pay off all the 20s, and sometimes that's the good explanation of the banking system that we have within our world. Now, as you know, I live in Sedona, Arizona, and my business is called the Sedona Connection. And there's a wonderful comedian by the name of J.P. Sears, and he got some great stuff that he has. He actually used to live here in Sedona. So let's watch his video of how he gives his interpretation of what goes on in Sedona.
Are aggressively spiritual. People at Burning Man actually get weirded out by people from Sedona. That's how over the top spiritual they are, which is the exact right amount of spiritual. To say Sedona is a spiritual vortex is putting it lightly. It's more of a spiritual black hole. People there don't make decisions based on logic. They make decisions based on astrology. Do I want to go out to dinner tonight? I don't know. Let me check my chart. No, I'm not being an irresponsible jerk. Mercury's in retrograde. It's not my fault. Look, me and my free will have nothing to do with my actions and choices. Mercury made me do it. And that's astrology. That's also behaving like an adult. Last winter, my cousin from Sedona caught a severe case of the flu. She refused to go to the doctor. What'd she do? She saged herself. Then she almost died from the flu. However, she was completely cleansed of negative energies when she almost died, based on what she told herself, which is highly accurate based on what my chart said people in my life would be like that day. My friend in Sedona runs a spiritual bookshop, and instead of having an accountant to help her run her business, she has a crystal right there on the front desk. Highly effective for abundance. And now she's being audited by the IRS. Should turn out okay. It's an amethyst. In Sedona, if you have a regular name like Jason, Ryan, or Heather, you are a spiritual nobody. Anybody who's a spiritual somebody in Sedona, which is everybody, has a high vibrational name given to them by a higher consciousness that they gave themselves. Not only is that spiritual, it's humble too. Spiritual names like Karma, Asha, Bliss, and Maya help Sedonians convey their spiritual superiority. And East Indian names like Dhruva, Aja, and J.J. Myram Das help white people in Sedona convey their spiritual heritage. Whenever I'm in Sedona, it feeds my soul to take long hikes to look at the majestic red rocks while I get sunburned. One time when I was hiking Little Horse, I had an accident and fractured part of my root chakra. It was pretty severe. But instead of getting medical attention, I just used essential oils. Worked super effectively. Lavender. 3 months later, my energy field is fully healed. I still have a severe limp though. Probably just my karma. Bone's still sticking out a little bit. What's the best essential oil for a compound fracture?
Okay. Thank you, JP. Now, yes, I live in Sedona, and I don't put myself into that category, but there are some people that live here that might kind of be that way. So, okay. I got a couple other just regular videos that are some good information videos. So let's go to the next one, okay?
What if the universe is an illusion? What if your reality is not what it seems to be? What if you are just a two-dimensional projection stretched on the surface of a black hole? And what does a black hole have to do with all this? This is What If, and here's what would happen if you lived inside a hologram. I know what you think. This isn't real. How can we live in a hologram if everything around us is three-dimensional? Well, prepare yourself for a big reality check, because this unified theory can explain everything about the fundamental laws of our existence. The holographic principle. We talked about it a little in the episode where a black hole deleted the universe. You may want to watch that one again. Because of all places, the holographic principle starts in a black hole. When you eat, say, a bagel, your mass increases by the mass of that bagel. With your mass increased, your volume grows, and so does your surface area. For a black hole, it's different. It's only the surface area and not the volume that increases with every bite. It's like the swallowed matter or energy doesn't make it inside the black hole, but rather gets stuck to its surface. Or like if you, instead of eating the bagel, just taped it to the outside of your stomach. Black holes themselves are three-dimensional, but their contents can be projected on their two-dimensional surface. And that gave scientists the idea of the holographic world. You, me, and everything else in the universe is made up of atoms and molecules. Atoms and molecules are made up of smaller subatomic particles, and those particles, in turn, are made up of something even smaller, the information about their state in time and in space. These particles are so small that our eyes can't detect them. We just know they're there. And we know they don't answer to the classical laws of physics. It's up to quantum mechanics to interpret their nature. One of the ways to understand the smallest fundamental particles is through the string theory. The string theory is purely theoretical, and the mathematics behind it is complicated. Nobody has ever solved it yet, but maybe we can change the rules a little bit. If you're trying to solve a complicated problem, you can map all the volume of the universe across its boundary, like a hologram. The nature of the problem changes because for the two-dimensional universe, we don't need to count quantum gravity in. That turns the nearly impossible to crack mathematics of the string theory to maybe doable equations. It's not a solution yet, just a shortcut to the solution. But once you figure out how to solve it, you can transform the solution into our three-dimensional space. Congratulations, you solved the mystery of the universe and how it started, through the hologram. But does that mean we ourselves are living inside a hologram? And what would it be like to be a hologram? When you take a selfie, you lose some of the information about yourself. When you later look at the picture, you can't see the back of your head. The holograms are designed to preserve all of that information. If you experienced the world in a holographic way, you could look at someone else's skin and tell everything about their organs, what they ate for lunch, even their thoughts. Is it just me or does that sound creepy? The fundamental laws of our universe, from black holes to the smallest particles to the laws of our reality, could be potentially described with the help of the holographic principle. It doesn't necessarily mean we live inside a hologram, but if we did, we wouldn't be able to tell the difference anyway. Maybe time doesn't exist either. But that's a story for another What If.
Now, I know that's not something that we're all that familiar with, and you think, why in the world am I sharing that? Do we live in an illusion in a holographic world? Here's what the answer to that, based on quantum physics science, is yes, we do. But we don't experience it that way because we choose to focus on the third dimensional world and allow ourselves to be in that perspective. But on the books that I've read about this whole concept of the world being an illusion, a simulation, and a holographic reality, as we learn how to think beyond the third dimensional world and to understand that it's much bigger and it's just a holographic illusion, our consciousness expands, our awareness expands, and our ability to perceive what goes on around us expands. And when that happens, we move into a position of having far, far more control over what goes on in our lives. Now, I've shared in past programs, and this is the issue that's coming again out of real science, is our thoughts create the reality that we experience. If our thoughts are limited to a third-dimensional world, then we basically are a slave to the third-dimensional world, and we don't have a lot of power and control over what we experience or what goes on in our lives. But as we expand how we think, if we expand our perception, if we expand how the world appears to us, then our thoughts expand and we begin to see everything differently. And with that, we realize we are in far, far more control of everything that goes on in our lives, because that's when it becomes more conscious to us that our thoughts and our perceptions are creating everything that we experience. Okay, so now let's go on to the next video, and it expands on this concept a little bit. Okay,
The more scientists fleshed out quantum-based physics, the more mysterious it became. And one of these mysteries is known as the observer problem. If you remember our episode on simulation theory, we talked about the double-slit experiment.
I don't remember this. What was I out that day?
No, you were here. You don't remember?
Well, maybe I was bored and I tuned you out.
Real nice.
Or I was hungover. Anyway, refresh my memory.
In the double-slit experiment, electrons are shot at a screen through a barrier with two slits. According to classical physics, we should see two thin strips representing the impact pattern. But this isn't what happens. Instead, the electrons create a wave interference pattern. If a wave collides with two slits in a barrier, it forms two new waves. The peaks and valleys of the new waves interfere with each other and cause an interference pattern. This indicates that the electrons are behaving like waves as they pass through the slits. Fine. Particles acting like waves is weird, but here's the magic. Let's set up a detector in front of the slits to check which slit each electron goes through. Once a detector is present, the interference pattern disappears. Now we get two narrow strips. The act of observing the quantum particle causes it to change its state, and the wave function collapses. Why?
Well, maybe it's because
No, don't do that. I was asking rhetorically. Danish physicist Niels Bohr tried to answer this question as simply as he could. He said the particle exists in all possible states at once. This is called superposition. And it stays in this state of superposition until it's observed. Once observed, the system collapses into a single outcome. Imagine a spinning coin. Until it lands, it's both heads and tails at the same time. Only when it stops and you look at the coin can you know the result. This became known as the Copenhagen interpretation. The idea that a particle can exist in all possible states at once wasn't universally accepted. Erwin Schrödinger created his Schrödinger's cat thought experiment kind of as a troll. He said, imagine a cat sealed in a box.
make it a crab cat.
Fine, imagine a crab cat sealed in a box.
I like it.
Also in the box is a radioactive atom, a detector, and a vial of poison.
I really like it.
If the atom decays, it releases radiation that gets detected. That breaks the vial, the poison is released, and you have a dead crab cat.
I love it.
Or the atom doesn't decay, and the crab cat stays alive. Only when you open the box can you tell if the crab cat survived. Until you observe it, it's both alive and dead at the same time.
Wacky.
Right. Schrödinger was trying to point out the problems with the Copenhagen interpretation. So he countered with Schrödinger's equation. This is a simple formula that predicts how waves move over time. It's essentially a probability calculator. Schrödinger's equation isn't 100% accurate in predicting where a particle is going to be, but it's pretty close. Then a young graduate student named Hugh Everett III entered the fray and turned these theories upside down. Everett found a way that the crab cat can be both alive and dead at the same time for real, and that a particle really can exist in every possible state all at once for real. Now, even though we only observe the particle in one state, every other state does exist, but it exists in its own universe. Although Everett's multiverse theory was slow to catch on, in recent years, many well-known physicists have come to believe he was right, and parallel universes are real. So if quantum parallel universes do exist, where are they?
Okay, those little bits were leftovers from what I had done when I was recording those, but this whole concept of parallel worlds and parallel universes, and that the world we live in is a holographic illusion, it's really kind of tough to grasp until you spend some time thinking it through. But let me give an illustration of what I have come to understand. We live in a world where there is what is called separation consciousness. People have different views and they're separating themselves from each other. And there's lots of different stories about what are we going to go into? What is the world of the future that we're going to experience? There's a lot of wonderful, that I call advanced conscious spiritual people that are saying, we're moving into a paradise and the world is going to be great and blah, 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 blah. And there's others that are saying there are people that are going to experience a real hellish type of a world. If the world is based on your thoughts, the collective energy of our thoughts together, we are going to experience what we are collectively thinking and the energy around that. Let me give an illustration. There are hundreds and hundreds of millions of people that deeply believe in the Bible and that the Bible is the authoritative Word of God. They deeply believe in the book of Revelation and all the chaos and the apocrypha type of events that are described within the book of Revelation. This absolute catastrophic, chaotic world that would be coming our way. If they believe it, deeply believe it, then that's the world they're going to experience. But for those of us that don't believe that, we believe that we are ascending, we are maturing, we are growing, we are becoming stronger in our awareness and our consciousness, and we're moving into a world of unity and a world of love and compassion for each other. That's the world that we will experience. And what that means is, because the world is not a hard physical third dimensional world, but it's a holographic illusion, both of those worlds can exist at the same time, but you only experience one of them. The parallel Earths. The Earths are parallel. They are there, but the people living on them are experiencing different worlds. And I would even branch out to say there's probably more than two. There's many different Earths, because remember, if our thoughts create our reality, our thoughts are creating the world we are experiencing. And we are going to project the type of world we will move into based upon our thoughts. That's why it's so important to try to catch yourself when you're in judgment and anger toward others, and you move into a place of compassion and humility and forgiveness toward everything that goes on around you, because in that is the higher vibrational world. In essence, there's going to be a higher vibrational world that consists of love, and a lower vibrational world that consists of a lot of hate, anger, and catastrophic events. And each individual will choose where they go. Now, they don't consciously make those thoughts. They don't consciously say, I'm going to consciously choose to go into this dark world and experience all this chaos and anger and frustration in my life. Hardly anybody wants to do that. It's not the conscious choice. It's the programming that has come from your subconscious mind. 95% of your day, the daily, everyday life that you experience, how you react to that is a program that you have programmed into your subconscious mind. You program how you're going to choose to react, whatever comes up in front of your face at any given moment. The important thing is to, when something that comes up in front of your face that's not very positive, that you have a high positive, high vibration reaction to it. And you see it that way. That's why Jesus said to always love your neighbor as yourself. See, he always had nothing but high, constant vibrational love toward everybody around him. He chose to separate the reality of the individual from the temporary behavior that they may be displaying. He said the behavior of the individual is not who they really are. If they're in a dark, dense behavior, they're just caught into a temporary situation, and they're experiencing basically the illusion of that type of reality because that's what their thoughts are creating. But that's not who they are as a being. And they have the ability to rise above that. We all have the ability to rise above whatever comes in front of our face. Now, for all of us here again in this currency exchange that are going to get all this money, we are the ones who get to choose how we react to having all this money and display compassion and helpfulness to all of those around us. Because when we do that, that expands. It has the ability to expand. Being involved in this currency exchange is not about you becoming rich so you can become, more stronger so that other people can't bother you or you won't be a victim to somebody else. It's about you having wealth and your ability to have that compassionately released and moved around the world to others in need. That's the real reason of why we're here. So, those are the things I wanted to share with you tonight. This was probably a short, maybe 20 to 25 minute program. Blog Talk Radio wasn't working for some reason, so I won't be able to take any phone calls tonight. But again, what I always do, if you got questions, send me an email with the questions. And then what I always do, the next day, I take this video, I edit it, and then I send it out to everybody. Okay? So with that, thank you for joining me here tonight. It's basically 6:30, so we've been on the air for about a half hour, and we should see you next week. All right? Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, bye-bye.